Okay, welcome everybody back to the Fantasy Savvy Weekly Show with your host Steve D'Angelo, presented by the Face Off Sports Network. Back for Week 11 NFL picks, recapping this Thursday night football game we just saw between the Eagles and the Commanders. Huge NFC East divisional game. Eagles come away with the W 26-18, so we'll get into that as well. Only 6 picks last week. Still a lot of picks, but the past shows we were taking 10, 11 picks. And this week, only 4 picks. There was a couple games where I was thinking about possibly taking, but just didn't like a lot. So only got 4 picks this week. We'll get to this pretty quick. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, share to the show, fffaceoff.com. We got you covered all over, whatever you need. Anthony and I did a start sit show earlier. We will be doing another one tomorrow, and then one final one Sunday to get you ready for Week 11. As 4 more weeks until the fantasy playoffs. We got Week 11, Week 12, Week 13, Week 14, and the fantasy playoffs start in weeks 15 through 17. So, like, subscribe, share. We got Week 11 picks. Steve D'Angelo, Fantasy Savvy on X. Follow me there. Presented by the Face Off Sports Network. We'll come back. We'll recap this Thursday night game. Let's go. Welcome to the Fantasy Savvy Weekly Show with your host, Steve D'Angelo. Presented by the Face Off Sports Network. Discussing high-stakes fantasy football, waiver, fab, free agent pickups, NFL picks, and more. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Once again, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you share, hit the notification button. If you guys want to talk anything fantasy football related, NFL related, even, college basketball, NBA, we can talk a little bit of that too. Whatever's on your mind, we'll get into it. You want to talk about this game tonight, we'll get into that as well. But let's start off with this game. We saw the Eagles again with 26-18. They moved to 8-2. And the Commanders are now 7-4. And Jaden Daniels gets a late touchdown to Zach Ertz at the end of the game to, improve his numbers a little bit. So he finishes 22 of 32, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, takes 3 sacks, just runs for 18 yards. And watching Daniels, man, a lot of he just throwing up his back foot, didn't have a lot on his throws. He still looks like that rib injury is hurting him a little bit. He took a couple rough hits in this game as well. So I think he's a little bit banged up. He hasn't really looked the same than he did earlier in the season or since that rib injury he took. So, it might take another couple weeks before we see him really taking off running again, really ripping the ball a little bit better like we saw earlier in the season. So it's been a little frustrating as a Jaden Daniels owner, especially the last 2 weeks. But at least he gets into the end zone. And Zach Ertz, 6 for 47 tonight. Austin Eckler, 8 for 89. Terry McLaurin, killer day, just 1 for 10. I mean, that was absolutely killer. Quentin Mitchell was, supposedly covering him a decent amount, but they play a lot of zone, and he's kind of playing to one side. And Cliff Kingsbury's not really moving guys around too much. Move them around. What was that one sequence where they ran it to Brian Robinson on 2nd and short, then Brian Robinson again on 3rd and short, then Jaden Daniels, I don't know what the hell, that bobbled the snap. He got, tackled out of bounds, got hit in the shoulder. That was a terrible sequence. A lot of short, dinky passes. I don't know. The offense looked very flat tonight. Again, Daniels is banged up, but I didn't really like Kingsbury's attack. Fangio kind of really outcoached him tonight, I thought. Eagles D continues, their good play, despite, not a lot of tough matchups. But this was a tough matchup against, Jaden Daniels, who's been playing well. But maybe they lucked out a little bit with his injury as well. So we'll see if this defense can keep it going on the Philly side. They've been playing well. They're playing smart. They're not letting up a lot of big plays. This dude, Zach Bond and Nakobe Dean playing really, really well. Zach Bond had 15 tackles tonight. Nakobe Dean, who I, starting, who I'm using Bond in IDP, but Dean also gets 10 tackles as well. Jalen Carter, Cooper DeJean, Brandon Graham, Josh Sweat, CJ Gardner Johnson, Darius Slay, Bryce Huff, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. So this is, they got a lot of guys. Quinton Mitchell, the two rookie corners, is all working right now for Fangio. And it's looking good for the Eagles. I kind of had my worries about them last year, the way they finished. And then even coming to this year, they did squeak by a couple wins, but they just keep getting it done. So we'll see how they finish the season. But Brian Robinson, 16 for 63. Nice day for him. He gets into the end zone, catches one ball for 9. So he was out a couple of weeks, comes back, gets into the end zone, long run of 18. Eckler, we said 8 for 89. McLaurin was a killer. And Eckler just 2 for 7 on the ground. Luke McCaffrey does nothing. 1 target. Diami Brown just 1 for 4. Noah Brown just 1 for 4. And that's really it. Zach Ertz, good day. If you used him at tight end, Eckler, nice day. And then Brian Robinson and Daniels, a decent day. For the Eagles, Jalen Hurts, 18 of 28, 221 yards, no passing touchdowns, took 2 sacks, no picks, but did get the one, tush push touchdown, 10 for 39 on the ground, gets to the end zone. Barkley ran it down to the one, looked like he was in. They didn't call a touchdown. Next play, they run the tush push. And then you get frustrated as a Barkley owner, like, how many touchdowns is Jalen Hurts going to steal from him this year? I mean, at least 10, 11 touchdowns, more, maybe 12, 13 touchdowns the rest of the way, in total. But Barkley gets, 2 huge runs, 26 for $146, 2 touchdowns. Oh, let me just pause this, baby. 2 touchdowns for Barkley. Huge day. Huge day once again for Saquon, who's been absolutely enormous in Philadelphia this season. Also catches 2 balls for 52 yards, had that long catch for 43 yards on 3 targets. So essentially a 200-yard day for Barkley and 2 touchdowns with a couple catches. Excellent fantasy day. You can't be more happy than Saquon Barkley. I'm most happy in one of my biggest leagues is after that first week when Barkley looked great, you had a free look so that there was a draft after that game and you could still draft the guy and obviously get his points and put him in the lineup that week. And I ended up getting Barkley in the 10th spot, which I thought was pretty good, 10th overall, because I did a couple drafts, Saturday and the next day, and he was going 2nd overall. So to get him in the 10th spot, loved it. And he's looking like, the RB1 this year, pretty much in fantasy. Saquon Barkley, finally all his talents are coming to fruition in Philadelphia with this offensive line, in this offense. So, props to him. We've been waiting from this type of season from Saquon since he was a rookie. He had that one good year. Then he just struggled with injuries, and the Giants' offensive line was always shot. They were losing receivers. Their quarterback play was terrible. So the Giants trade him. We all saw it on Hard Knocks. Mara said he's going to have nightmares if he went to Philly. And, Joe Sheen has got a lot to answer for. They've still got Daniel Jones. They don't have Saquon Barkley, and the Giants are in the shitter once again. So we'll see what the Giants do. A.J. Brown, 5 for 65. Dallas Goedert, nice day, 5 for 61. You'll take that from your tight end. Devonta Smith, slow day. It was his birthday. Anthony and I were all in on Devonta Smith today because it was his birthday. Good vibes, good feels. Had a good history against the Commanders in the past. 6 targets, but just didn't do a lot. 6 fantasy points or 7 fantasy points. Womp womp. Just not great. So back-to-back clunkers for Devonta Smith. And he kind of does this. He gives you some clunkers, and he goes off for 100 yards and a touchdown for a couple weeks, and he gives you another clunker. So the consistency is not always there. But as a whole, for the Philadelphia receiving core wasn't great. The best one you'll take is really Goddard at the tight end position. He had that 132-yard catch. But that's it. Philly gets the W, 26-18. Saquon Barkley continues his dominance. Good to see Brian Robinson come back and get into the end zone. Eckler still very heavily involved in the passing game. 9 targets. He gets 89 yards. And then Terry McLaurin was a killer. Jaden Daniels, slow day. Jalen Hurts, not a big day, but at least he gets into the end zone. 260 total yards. You'll take it. Not, hasn't been good as it's been, but you'll take it. And then A.J. Brown, decent. And then Devonta Smith, disappointing. Dallas Goedert, pretty good. Philly defense gets 3 sacks. They also get an interception. So, they let up 18 points under 20. So not a bad day for them is either. Freaking the kicker, Jake Elliott. I mean, he was a nightmare tonight. I had him in a couple leagues. 2 of 4, misses an extra point, finishes with 8 points. So, terrible day for him kicking. But that covers it up. So let's get into the picks, guys. If you have any questions, comments about this week, or if you want to talk another sport as well, we'll get into it. But as I'm going through these games, I'll look back into the comments. Let's just see if we got anybody in here tonight. And we got Al, says, "Sup, Steve?" What's up, Al? And our boy Jamie, 2 faithfuls, back with us again tonight. Jamie says, "Making a fashionably late entrance, but I'm here. Appreciate it, bro. Just got done writing my wide receiver versus cornerback article. Please drop it in the chat, man. Drop the link in the chat. I would definitely want to, have everybody check that out. Of course, I want to check that out as well." And Jamie says, "Hey, man, congrats on being the number 2 overall quarterback ranker. Keep it up, dude. Appreciate it, man. I had a rough week with the rankings this week. I was actually away, and I was on vacation with my brother. He came into town, and we went out, drinking on Saturday. And then Sunday morning, I'm trying to do my rankings, and I'm, watching that freaking Germany game, and I was just all out of sorts. Like, I couldn't even get my head straight. So I was feeling terrible. My ranks are terrible this week, but we'll bounce back. Yeah, number 2. I didn't even realize I was that high. I know I was like number 5 at one point, and now I'm number 2. So yeah, that's good. I think I'm like, my overall dropped a little bit this week because I was like maybe in the 40s overall, maybe 50s, but I'm probably in the 60s now after a rough week. So got to bounce back this week. I was top 15 a couple weeks ago. But definitely got to bounce back this week. I think I did knock down Saquon a couple spots though tonight, maybe like 3rd or 4th, just because I want to be a little bit different. Everybody else had him number 1, or the consensus had him number 1. But I appreciate that, Jamie. And Jamie also says his wide receiver versus cornerback article comes out tomorrow. So leave it in the comments, man. When you're done, post up the link. I definitely want to check that out as well. Awesome that you're here, Al and Jamie. Appreciate it. Oh, Jamie says I'm 37th overall. Okay, so I'm way off. I don't know what the hell. That's pretty good. And I probably would have been a lot higher if I didn't freaking ruin myself last week. I think I was 140 last week, which was my worst ranking all year. Again, I blame it on, going out to bars and staying up too late and drinking too much. And I was all over the place on Sunday morning. I was a hot mess. So 37th overall. Take it. All right, let's get into pick 1 here. And again, we only have 4 picks tonight. Let's go over our record for the year. Week 2, again, week 1, I'm always drafting up until Saturday, doing my high stake leagues. But week 2, we started the picks, went 3-5-1. Week 3, 5-3, so we're 8-8-1. Week 4, 2-6, 10-14-1. Week 5, 5-8, 15, 22-1, 40%, our worst percentage of the year. Then week 6, 8-4. 23, 27-1, 46%. Week 7, 3-8, 26, 35-1, 42.6%. Then week 8, 8-3, 34, 38-1. Week 9, 7-4, 41, 42-1, and now at 49.3%. And then last week we were 3-1 going into the Monday night game, and I lost both on Monday night last week. I'm trying to remember what the hell that game was last week. I can't even remember. Dolphins Rams. That's what it was. And I had the Rams -1.5, and I had the over, and it was underscoring. So we finished week 10, 3-3. So we're 44, 45-1, 49.34%. And week 11, we got 4 picks. So we want to get over the 50 percentile this week. Last year we were 54.5%, 87.74 and 2. So we were cashing last year, and we still got plenty of time. We pick all the way through the Super Bowl. So week 11, what do we got first for the first pick? And let's go to Miami, baby. We're going to keep Miami going. They had a nice win last week against the Rams on Monday night. The defense is starting to play better football. They get the Vegas Raiders into town, going West Coast to East Coast. More palm trees for Vegas. Go to the Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. Miami is favored by 7.5, but you can find 7 on DraftKings and FanDuel. So that's what we're going to go with. Miami -7. We still haven't seen Tua's best game with Tyreek, with Jalen Waddle. Tyreek's got the fractured or torn wrist ligament. Supposedly, before the season it was bothering him, and then it got worse when he got arrested that day. Cops had him, handcuffed behind his back. But supposedly they came out and said it doesn't really affect his play too much. He scored a touchdown last week, but not a lot of yards. What do you have, 30, 40 yards, but gets into the end zone. So this team is due for an explosion. The Miami Dolphins are due for an offensive explosion. Again, we really haven't seen it all year. Tyreek, early on had a couple decent games, or, it just hasn't done anything all year. Waddle hasn't done anything. Jonnu Smith had some decent games. Achane's had some big games. So I think the Dolphins are going to come out on offense and defense. Raiders coming off the bye. Yes, they'll be a little focused. They're 2-7. I mean, Gardner Minshew could, maybe get them up a little bit. Bowers, Jacoby Myers, maybe the defense comes to play a little bit. I just think the Dolphins, they're going to ride the momentum from last week. Going to LA with a huge win against the Rams, winning 23-15. Playing close against Arizona 28-27, playing close against Buffalo 30-27. And I think they ride the momentum, and I'm going to take them -7. Give me Tyreek at home, waiting for an explosion. I think it's got to come this week against the Raiders. Maybe even Waddle. Achane should have a big game. And I think the Dolphins defense, I love the way they looked last week, against the Rams. And I think they could keep that going against Gardner Minshew. No really run threat. Alexander Madison, Zamir White, womp womp. Maybe Bowers and Myers do a little bit of work, but I like the Miami defense to do a good job. They've been good against quarterbacks all year. I thought it was kind of fluky because they didn't really play anybody all year. They were like number 1 against fantasy quarterbacks, number 2 or number 3. And I think they keep it going here. So let's go pick one. Miami Dolphins -7. By the way, Jamie, you did pick that Kansas City upset by Denver, and you would have had it if they didn't freaking block that field goal. But we did hit the under in that game. I had Kansas City in that game, but we did hit the under in that game, the under 42. All right, next pick. And we are going to go. That's it. We're going to go to the 4 o'clocks now. That's it for the 1 o'clocks. And we are going to go to San Francisco. So we're going to go all the way from the southeast to the northwest, basically, essentially, with Seattle and San Francisco. And these two teams played back in October 10th, 36-24 in Seattle. Brock Purdy had 255 yards, 3 touchdowns. Garendo ran for 99 yards in this game. Remember, he broke that 76-yard. That was like the first game where Mason got hurt with that shoulder injury. He was having a good game that game, and then he came out and Garendo broke that huge run. And then I think he may have went down, or maybe that was another game. But Mason goes 9 for 73. Samuel 3 for 102 and a touchdown. George Kittle 5 for 58 and a touchdown. On the other side, Geno Smith threw for 312, a touchdown, 2 picks. Kenny Walker just 14 of 32 on the ground, but did get into the end zone. Tyler Lockett, 8 targets, 4 catches, 65 yards and a touchdown. Noah Fant had a nice day, 6 for 63. Noah Fant may not play in this game. on Sunday. Jackson Smith, Nick Jigba, JSN went for 5 for 53. DK slow day, 3 for 48 on 11 targets. So, they put up 24 points. The San Francisco 49ers put up 36 points. So I love the over again. I mean, over 48. Why not? Um, I just the way Smith and Jigba looked last game, I think they're going to kind of try to use him down the field. They should at least. You still got you got DK coming back from the injury, Kenny Walker fresh off the bye, Gino, the planning, revamp. This is a huge divisional game. On the other side, San Francisco, they got McCaffrey now. Jawan Jennings is playing big. He's back from his injury. You got Debo, you got Ricky Pearsall, you got Kittle. So I see a lot of points here. I think the spread is kind of right on the money. I could see, San Francisco covering this game. I could see Seattle kind of backdooring it. But let's go with the over 48 for pick 2 in week 11. All right, pick 3. And we are going to go to another great game. There's some really good games this week. Pittsburgh, Baltimore. I was thinking about taking Pittsburgh in that game. Pittsburgh has won the last 3 matchups against Baltimore. They've kind of had their number. I was kind of tempted to take Pittsburgh there. Let me just double check that. Yeah, they won 16-13, 17-10, 17-10. So this over-under is 48.5. Pittsburgh is +3. I guess I'll lean Pittsburgh in the under just by the past results. Pittsburgh's got it going right now, 7-2. Russ is playing smart. Maybe he's due for a loss here against Baltimore. Lamar is playing out of his mind. This is probably the best I've ever seen Lamar play. With Derrick Henry there, Zay Flowers emerging, but excellent game. Plus the game tonight that we had, and then this game upcoming that we're going to talk about now, Kansas City, Buffalo. Obviously, the Chiefs are undefeated. They're 9-0. They're 5-4 against the spread. They're getting 2.5 here. We'll see if that drops to 2. Maybe it drops to, goes up to 3. We'll see if the Bills get Keon Coleman. It sounds like he may be out again. I think he is out again, probably. Amari Cooper, is expected to play, but we don't really know. So that could be, and also Dalton Kincaid could be out. So, the Bills could potentially have no Amari Cooper, no Dalton Kincaid, no freaking Keon Coleman. They'll have James Cook, they'll have Ray Davis, they'll have Khalil Shakir, Matt Collins, Curtis Samuel, and Josh Allen in their defense, obviously. And Buffalo's been great against Kansas City in the regular season, not the playoffs, obviously, but in the regular season, December 10th, last year, 20-17, October 16th, 2022, they win 24-20. And even going back to 2021, they win 38-20. And all those games were in Kansas City. So they went into the regular season, beating Kansas City 3 times in the regular season. They just can't beat them in the playoffs. 38-24 in 2021, the absolute classic game, 42, the 13-second game, one of the best games I've ever seen. 2 unbelievable performances by Allen and Mahomes in that game. And Allen, was unbelievable. You couldn't play any better than he did. And they should have won that game. The 13 seconds, Leslie Frazier. I think that game kind of ended his career as defensive coordinator in Buffalo, personally. And then the next year they played Cincinnati in the playoffs in that snow game. Remember, their defense was soft as tissues also. And I kind of like the way their defense has been playing since Leslie Frazier left. With McDermott, it's kind of been more aggressive. And he's getting all these different guys, even with all these injuries they've suffered. And, Matt Milano is practicing. I don't think he's going to play this week. But, they're just very aggressive, and he gets all these different guys to just buy in and play within the system. And also last year, 27-24, losing in the playoffs to the Chiefs again. And that game was in Buffalo. Obviously Tyler Bass misses the tying field goal. Allen had Gabe Davis. Also, and he got hit by Chris Jones. So the ball, just fell short. They missed the field goal, and the Chiefs win. So huge game. Bills 8-2, Chiefs 9-0. This is must-watch TV. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. Kincaid's got to find a way to get out there. Amari Cooper's got to get his fucking ass out there as well. And I think one of the two, if not both, will be out there. I like the fact the Bills defense is going to be on Mahomes. They're going to slow this offense down. Kareem Hunt, is kind of slowing down a little bit. I know he was heavily involved in the pass game last week. I know they got Hopkins. They're not going to let up big plays. So I'm going to go with Buffalo here to end the streak for the Chiefs of 9-0. They got their last, freaking lucky ass play last week with the block field goal. They should have lost that game. And Jamie says that block kick was rigged. Only 1.8% of kicks are blocked. So it was either pure luck or part of the script. Well, if you saw, they showed Orlowski was breaking it down. They kept running over that same guy like they were preparing for it. And that last one, it all busted through. So, whatever it was lucky for sure. A little bit of luck involved, at least. They sound like they had the right strategy, plowing that one guy over. And then, they finally broke through. But I think it comes to an end here. The Chiefs get their first loss. The Bills get a huge win. The Bills Mafia is going to be going nuts, beating the Chiefs, at home. And I think these two teams will probably play in the playoffs again later in the year. And hopefully the Bills can finally take them down in the biggest spot, and Allen could kind of push himself into a Super Bowl. Burrow's been to a Super Bowl. Mahomes obviously has been to a million Super Bowls. Allen's got to get there, and it seems like they could do it this year. Everybody bet against them. No more Stephon Diggs. No more Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde. This team's going to take a step back. The window's closed. That was the whole narrative, the offseason, bunch of bullshit. This is their best record since 1993 at 8-2, way back in the Jim Kelly days. So let's go Bills -2.5 for pick 3. All right. Before we get into pick 4, let's jump back to the chat. Jamie's like, great stat guy, man. Just bringing all the great stuff here. JSN has seen 9 targets last time they faced the Niners. Metcalf had 11 targets, but only caught 3. Yeah, did reference that. Metcalf, I remember it was just a weird game. He looked like he was frustrated. The Niners did a good job covering him. I think the Steelers-Ravens game has a 70% chance of rain and 40% chance of thunderstorms. That's true, man. I usually do look at the weather. Let me pop the weather up on these games real quick. Let's see what we got. Let's look at I don't see anything for Pittsburgh here. This is from Roto Grinders guy Kevin Roth. He's usually pretty good. Green Bay, Chicago winds 10 to 15 miles an hour. Low chance for showers. And then Seattle, San Francisco, a chance for showers. So nothing major here, but maybe something to keep an eye on with Jamie referencing the weather there in Pittsburgh. 70% chance of rain and 40% chance of thunderstorms. We'll see. Dawson Knox can be a sneaky start this week with the Chiefs allowing the second most points to tight ends. Anthony was liking Dawson Knox. He did reference that. Yeah, definitely could happen. Dawson Knox, history of drops, huge drops too. I remember even in that Texans playoff game, had a couple big drops. Also missed a block in that game when they lost to Deshaun Watson in the Texans the first time when Allen was in the playoff game. But that was many moons ago. There's a chance for him to step up. He's been in the NFL a long time. He's always kind of had the case of the drops, but I do like Dawson Knox. He's the type of guy give him a screen, get him out in the open. He runs over dudes. He can pick up. He's hard to bring down. Nice target, and he can definitely step up even if Kincaid's out. Jamie Pierre says, "Oh damn, Frankie Louvu got me 55 points, and Jeremy Chin got me 26 IDP." Yeah, I'm only in one IDP league. You start 4 guys, 1 defensive lineman, 1 defensive back, 1 linebacker, and then 1 flex. And I had Dean going tonight. Or actually, I had Bourne, rather, Zach Bourne, 15 tackles, one tackle for loss, and one pass deflection. So, very nice. Good day for him. He's been a nice pickup. All right, last pick of the week for week 11. Just 4 picks again. Guys, make sure you like, subscribe, share. Follow me on X at Fantasy Savvy. Last pick, we're going to Sunday night football. And it's going to be all right. Let's go to Sunday Night Football. And we are going to take between the Cincinnati Bengals and Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers giving 1.5 to the Bengals. Bengals 4-6. Another devastating loss for them last week against Baltimore. Chargers, 3 straight wins, 26-8 against New Orleans, 27-10 against Cleveland, against Jameis Winston. I think like 19 picks in that game. Beat Willie Fubu's last week, 27-17. So defense playing pretty well against shitty offenses, of course. But offense playing well. Justin Herbert is looking good. He's running. Quentin Johnson's catching wide open touchdowns. Ladd McConkey, Josh Palmer, Will Dissly's getting into the mix. You got J.K. Dobbins, even the Gus Bus is back. So I like them, to put up some points here. Again, Cincinnati led up 24 to Vegas, 37 to Philly, 35 to Baltimore. So their defense stinks, which helps their offense, have to throw the ball as well, which is helping Burrow put up big numbers, which is helping Chase be the number 1 fantasy wide receiver. Also, Chase Brown's been nice. T. Higgins, looks like he may come back this week. If not, you got Mike Gesicki, who's been stepping up in T. Higgins' absence. Not so much last week with Tanner Hudson getting out there, but we like the over 47.5. It doesn't, this is, the way Chargers are playing defense. Yeah, maybe, but I could see this kind of being a back and forth, almost like a shootout between Herbert and Burrow on Sunday night in LA. And, either this game could go either way. Bengals really need this one. This is like they just desperately need this game. They don't want to go to 4-7. To get to 5-6, to go beat the LA Chargers on the West Coast would be absolutely huge. Could go back and forth, but I like the over here. Again, Herbert's playing good. Cincinnati's defense isn't that good still. Anarumo could figure out some things here and there, but their defense is not playing good, throughout pretty much all year. Burrow with Chase and Higgins, Gesicki, Chase Brown, they could be absolutely dangerous. Burrow's got 24 touchdowns. I believe just 4 picks. He's been killing it this year. So let's go with the last pick over 47.5. So to recap, the picks for week 11. We got Dolphins hosting the Vegas Raiders -7 on FanDuel or DraftKings. Seattle, San Francisco in the 4:00 slot over 48. Again, the last game was 36-24 back in October. Bills -2. If you could find -2 against the Chiefs to break the win, the undefeated season for the Chiefs. And then finally, Sunday Night Football, Chargers, Bengals over 47.5. So that will wrap up the picks, guys. Last couple comments from Jamie. And he's retracking his weather report where he says, shit, never mind. I just checked again. It's now 4% chance for the Ravens Steelers. That's why I'm not a weatherman. Yeah. I mean, I looked at Kevin Roth. He's usually pretty good for the weather, and I didn't see anything either. I remember Pete was calling one of these games like a monsoon, like about a month ago, and there was like no rain. He's telling everybody it's a freaking monsoon. So, yeah, you always got to double check those weather reports. We are expecting actually another storm here. It's going to hit the west coast of Florida next week sometime. It looks like possibly, and then move across the state. Looks like a tropical storm, maybe Cat 1, but, could bring some rain to maybe the southwest, maybe going into, southeast, even the northeast, maybe going into next weekend. So something to pay attention to. Trone Forrest joins us. What's up, buddy? Saquon saved my week. I had Jaden Daniels, McLaurin, and Barkley going and only had 5 points between the three of them at the half. Ended up only 2 points short of my projections. Yeah, it's always great. Sometimes you get, shitty games from your, studs, but like if one of the other guys just goes off like Saquon tonight, it just makes up for it. Or if like your defense gets you a big like 20-point game, or your kicker kicks like 15 points, it makes up for some of your studs getting like, under 10 points or even like a 5-6 point game. So yeah, man, great pick taking Barkley this year. There's a lot of people that avoided Barkley this year. Like, I don't know why. I gotta say, like, I was in on him early, Barkley. Then I kind of went away from him, and then I went back to him. But there was people that straight up avoided him. They kind of thought he was done and he was being overdrafted. Jamie says, I'm going to bet the over on all Tillman's betting lines. Yeah. Last game, there's some garbage time. I kind of see this more of like a low scoring game between Cleveland and New Orleans. Cause like how much is Derek Carr going to do? And New Orleans defense was trash, but they did play better last week. Now that Dennis Allen is out of town, they did a good job against Atlanta. So, I'm not crazy about it, but Jameis is going to sling. He's going to give him chances for sure. But I think New Orleans is a little bit revamped after that Dennis Allen, suffocation and that, Pete Carmichael, Peyton regime that whole thing is finally dismantled and they can start over fresh and ready. Jamie talking about Tillman. Past 2 weeks, John Charles allowed a 70% catch rate, giving up 143 yards on 7 receptions. Expect Tillman to be targeted frequently. And when Tillman in the slot, Taylor allows receptions on 78% of targets, averaging 5 catches and 56.5. So there you have it. Jamie likes Cedric Tillman props this week. So we got some props in the show as well. Appreciate that, Jamie. So that's it, guys. The 4 picks. Once again, to wrap it up, Dolphins -7, Seattle, San Francisco over 48, Bills -2, Chargers, Bengals over 47.5. We'll see you guys back next Thursday. My kids' baseball season is done. They were 13-0 in the regular season. They went to a double elimination tournament and they lost back-to-back nights to team they didn't lose to all season long. So at least I don't have to, constantly be there. I would have to go tomorrow night and Saturday. So I'll be around tomorrow. And next Thursday, I'll be back again for NFL picks. Let's get over the 500 mark. Guys, like, subscribe, and share. And make sure you follow me on X at Fantasy Savvy. Jamie says, thanks, dude. Let's win, because nobody likes a loser. Yeah, there's nothing worse than losing. Always got to shoot for those W's. So we'll see you guys again soon. Take care. Have a great weekend and enjoy the games.
Yo, vintage got the boom.